Well, yeah, certainly. I mean, it was our fault. We made a mistake. Spotter said it was clear. It wasn't clear, and, I didn't want to tear my car up, tear his car up either. I respect everybody, and I demand respect. And, I apologized to the guy when he came over the car, explained to him what happened. And then he took it to another level when he started calling me an idiot and whatever else. And I don't appreciate that. I'm not going to take it. I told him how I felt. I called him out. He didn't show. And so I'm good with it if he's good with it, but I'm not going to be disrespected by no means.
Yeah, I guess I had a dinner date at Applebee's last night that I didn't find out until it was too late. It's a shame. Love their riblets and boneless wings, but...
All right, folks, welcome back to Meet Me at Applebee's, your number one unrefined motorsports podcast. It's Brien here with Rob and Ashley, as always, and we are here to talk about Michigan, which I attended. So, folks, how are we doing this week?
I'm doing pretty good. Had a nice weekend of manual labor and watching races out in the backyard. Feeling really good about the progress I made. I burnt a bunch of wood on Sunday. It felt really nice. Probably shouldn't have burnt it because I don't know what kind of paint they used on that shed, and it hadn't been painted since the 60s, so I guess we'll find out in 10 to 15 years if I have COPD. How you doing, True Love?
I am currently sitting in a haunted hotel, in Parkersburg, West Virginia, drinking a Baja Blast.
Hell yes. So Tyler Carpenter didn't put you up?
Nope.
That's a shame.
Son of a bitch. I did look at his house on the GPS, though, when we drove by it the other day, and looks like they have an above-ground pool in the backyard.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, that's not a shock. Did you drive past West Virginia Motor Speedway?
We did, but it was dark outside, so we're going to drive by it in the daylight tomorrow.
Okay, cool. I was going to say, we didn't mention this last week on the show because I didn't even notice it till after the fact, but West Virginia Motor Speedway has been purchased again, and they're going to reconfigure it into a 3/8 mile track. The 5/8 mile is still going to be there, but they're just going to run the 3/8 mile to start because nobody wants to run the big track. So hopefully get to go down there finally after living out here for 10 years and never any races happening there. But
that's great news. Yeah, I mean, a lot of news about old racetracks reopening, so that's a positive thing.
Yeah, we mentioned it last week, but Mansfield got rebought by Matt Tift, and I believe they started tearing up the concrete and stuff today or yesterday. So work's begun there, and that'll be a dirt track. Maybe by next year they'll have a race on it, so we'll see how that goes. But he's putting a lot of money into it, so hopefully it works out for him.
Man, them dudes are spending their charter money in such great ways. Fucking mountain roller coasters and dirt tracks. My dogs.
But yeah.
It reminds me of those TV shows where the people win the lottery and then they blow it all within like the first 6 months.
Well, there was a guy in like 88 or 89 that won the lottery and tried to start a race, like a NASCAR team, I think in the Busch team, and didn't go very well for him. But
I think it was an ARCA team, wasn't it?
Maybe it was ARCA, but I mean, it was one of the lower series, and yeah, it didn't go very well. But I know that if I was to ever win the lottery, not that I play, I would probably do the same thing. So I guess I can't really say a whole lot.
You can't win if you don't play, as my mother-in-law says. So,
well, realistically, what I would do is go drive modifieds. I would just move back home and get a modified and run my local tracks. So
Someday Sheldon Creed will win a race and take 25 cents back.
Yep.
That's probably worth about $28, I think. So that's a good little nest egg.
Well, Stewie got me some money this week, but we'll get to that.
Yeah. Pretty quickly too, because I don't think any of us watched the ARCA race.
No. So yeah, NASCAR was in Michigan this weekend, as mentioned. ARCA, the trucks, and the Cup Series. None of us watched the ARCA race, but Butterbean got his third win of the season, so I think we're all happy about that. Couldn't tell you what happened. I just know that on Door Bumper Clear they said there was a car that was lapped after 6 laps. So
fuck yeah, dude.
That really shows you the competition in ARCA right now.
Yeah, Freddie Kraft referred to it as the Richard Petty driving experience, and I don't think there's a more apt description for the state of the ARCA series right now.
Yep.
Pretty good.
Moving on to trucks. So Truck Series, this was the big I guess, debut of Corey LaJoie in his stint in
Ego?
the.
Sure.
So yeah, this was his move to trucks because nobody else was going to put him in anything else. And also mentioned on Door Bumper Clear, apparently he had the option to take the 19 truck, which Hemrick is in now and has already won in, but he decided not to because they didn't have a crew chief picked out. So smart move there, Corey. Speaking of him, though, so of course, we mentioned this on the show last week, but we didn't hear anything from Corey until after we recorded. But he had some interesting things to say about his move.
Boy, did he.
First off, he blamed his 12 fans comments on the fact that he was on day 5 of a fast and he was hangry. So that is some childish bullshit right there.
Unfucking real.
Fuck that dude.
But I would say more importantly, he also had an insane analogy about returning to Spire, who apparently I think are still paying him, apparently, and maybe this is why they put him in the truck, because why the fuck not? You're paying the guy anyways.
Yep.
It's like when you've worked building a house for 5 years and then your wife becomes a TikTok star and she says she's not happy anymore and she kicks you out. And then she calls you back a year later and you have to live in the guest room and she's there with her new boyfriend. That's how this thing goes. So already off to a hot start there. Corey clearly seems very happy with everything.
It makes perfect sense.
That felt a little too personal.
It really did. I don't know anything about Corey's wife and if she is a TikTok star, but I
didn't even know he had one, to be honest with you.
We can talk more about that off the air if you want. But,
Oh, wait, never mind. I did know that. Just kidding.
Yes. But truck race happened. I did not go to this because I was not going to drive to Michigan twice in a weekend. And as much as I like the trucks, I was fine watching that from home. And it was a race. It was Heim and Hocevar and Chastain.
Bunch of cup drivers, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much a normal race for the most part until the end. So there was a caution with 10 to go after Chastain almost lost it getting into it with Hocevar, and then Lane Riggs cut a tire down, and there was a caution for that, which led to a restart where it seemed like Gio Ruggiero just, I don't know if he was either he didn't get a proper restart or the guys behind him jumped the gun and pretty much took out almost half the field.
Oh yeah.
It was.
Oh yeah.
It was for for those of us who missed the ARCA show, which is all of us. It was a nice little ARCA moment in the truck series, taking out the whole field like that.
Yeah, I feel like I watched it in that moment.
Yeah.
I didn't watch any of the race, so I'm getting text updates, and y'all were bitching about, or not bitching, y'all were saying, what a terrible job Corey was doing, and then I turned it on with 5 to go, and he's in second. I was like, what has happened?
That's the thing.
At
So
the front for a little while, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he was in top 10, top 15 all day. It wasn't like he was in the back all day, but so he got the lead on the first overtime. Managed to lose that. Lawless Allen and Hemrick both wrecked. So there was another overtime after that. And Stuart Friesen, he after the 2 overtimes went from 8th to getting the lead and taking the win. So he is no longer on suicide watch.
Yep.
That's over. Not that we're Friesen fans, but I did get a nice little $7 payday out of him winning. So I was
there you go,
on 10 cents.
Yeah.
So can't complain.
Have a corn dog at Michigan.
Yeah, basically.
And to be fair, when I texted y'all about Corey LaJoie and how looks like he's ready for Cup, he was running in 26th place at that time, so he turned it around.
So that happened. It was a race. Good for Stewie. And yeah, I'm glad Corey didn't win because I was very upset on that first overtime. You got to be fucking kidding me. How is Corey LaJoie going to win in his first race in this fucking truck?
I mean, that's what he's down there to do. You know, this is career salvage time, and if you're going to do it, that's how you do it.
But none of us want that.
No, of course not. I'm just saying. I'm just saying that's what you got to do.
Yeah, I will say he did mention, like, he doesn't have any National Series wins, so that's kind of necessary to be a Cup driver. You should have at least a couple somewhere. So if he really ever wants to get back there, he's going to have to do it this way. So,
yeah.
But that leads us to Sunday, which I did head up to the track for, and my good buddy Greg from Wisconsin, who I've been to a bunch of races with, he came up with me. We got there a little bit later than I wanted to. I wanted to get there by noon. We got there like 1:45. So gypsy tents were trash this year. They were like half as many as last year, and nothing good in any of them.
Have they ever been good at Michigan in recent years anyway?
There were always at least a lot of them. I want to say I found a couple things here and there. This time, like, there was the one tent that always has the ridiculously overpriced vintage stuff, and like I found the John Andretti Indy Double shirt. It was brand new, but it was also dirty as fuck. And I also found like an Oswego Super Dirt shirt, which is only like 6-7 years old. The guy wanted $70 for both of them. I was like, nope, put those right the fuck back. Yeah, like just beat the fuck, like dirty as shit shirts. And you're like, nope, you can take those and move them around the country for 6 months.
Wipe your ass with them some more since it sounds like what he was doing.
I love that shit when you go to those tents and they just got those bright white T-shirts that just stay on the rack when they load them back into the U-Haul and load them back out, and it's got just mud from every Conoco parking lot across the United States on them.
They got weird rust stains on them.
Yeah, it's like they've been worn, but they clearly haven't because they're still like ironed. You know, it's no good.
So yeah, we got into the track. We got there. We could hear the Dodge truck doing burnouts and run around the track or whatever. So we missed that big ceremony, which didn't really care. I mean, we all knew that was happening, and Mikey spoiled it anyways. Well, the whole fucking sport spoiled it basically. So
yeah, but Mikey did mention the Ram debut on the broadcast, and he also pretty officially linked Cletus McFarland to at least one of the rides. So
yeah, which has not been confirmed by anyone. Like Dodge didn't. They basically said they're trying to get 4 to 6 teams, and they said they don't have anything confirmed yet. So if Cletus is confirmed, then they're not giving that up yet. So it remains to be seen who will be in those trucks next year. But they'll be there, and they also said they want. Obviously want to do Cup in the next couple years. And the one point that they made is the V8 that they ran last in the Cup Series would still be viable today. So they already got the motor together. So it's really not much different than the truck as far as they got a motor, and, the cars are all kit cars anyways, just figure out a body. But, give them a couple years. Hopefully they'll sort it out.
Badass.
So yeah, getting to the track, and it was pretty full. I don't know what the exact attendance numbers. It definitely wasn't sold out, but if I had to guess, it was probably 75% full. So
it looked pretty jam-packed on television, I can say that.
Yeah, I mean, my normal plan was to just go alone and get a cheap seat and move around. With Greg coming, we got pretty good seats actually, right near the exit of the pits, and my plan wouldn't have worked if I was alone because there were not many open seats near us, so worked out for the best. But yeah, it was a perfect day. I mean, after 2 straight years of rainouts, I was just happy to get the full race in and have a great day to do it. Started off with pretty... Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, were you sitting near anyone fun?
No, we weren't really. I mean, there were a couple, like, probably 70-year-old guys next to us and a couple families and stuff. But no, the only goofball near us, I took the photo of the kid in the
vanilla wafers.
It was not vanilla wafers, thankfully. But I took there was one noggin boss there. So
yeah, was it hot?
It was like in the 70s, so I'll get to it. I had a little moment, which we'll talk about.
So you could, in theory, wear a giant foam hat and it wouldn't kill you.
No. I almost wore one of my Ernie Oliver prints, which I'm glad I didn't because it would have been bad. After the fact. But no, stage one. good battles between Busher and William Byron. Busher ended up taking stage 1. Stage 2, there was a lot of battling and passing throughout the pack, a lot in the second half of the field. I guess this is where one of my confessions comes. So I actually, when the Bowman wreck happened and they red flagged it, we went down to go to the bathroom and kind of get out of the sun for a little bit and just kind of cool off a little bit. And I don't know what the hell happened. I was starting to feel a little nauseous, and again, I wasn't drunk, wasn't hungover or anything. Like, we just went out to dinner the night before and had a pretty quiet night. I had a couple beers that day, but I wasn't, wasn't intoxicated or anything. I was driving, so. But no, I was feeling a little off. Like, so cooling off was good. But then when we got back in our seats, I was just fading. Like, I don't know what the hell is happening. Like, I was trying to hide it. I was trying to like I know I'm going to pass out for a couple minutes. Like, I was trying to get in a position to where, like, it would look I was still paying attention, but...
It's Weekend at Bernie's shit.
Yeah, but...
Didn't want to rest your head on your neighbor that you didn't know.
Yeah, but yeah, I nodded off for, like, probably 10, 15 minutes, and I missed Blaney's wreck. So Greg woke me up when that happened, and then I was fine after that. Then I was totally normal.
Maybe Bowman passed his concussion off to you through osmosis.
Maybe.
And Blaney's wreck snapped you out of it.
Yeah. But yeah, I was fine after that, and I was awake and alert for the rest of the race. And it was a good.
Went to the infield care center. I got you fixed up. Speaking of trips to the infield care center and those who didn't make it out so well, there was a squirrel that ran across pit road at some point.
R.I.P.
Yeah, right in front of Ty Dillon, and boy, he clobbered that little fucker.
It happens.
It does happen.
Straight in the RCR museum.
Yeah, seriously, a little something to take home for the museum. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine?
Make Pop proud.
Send the jackman out there with a shovel to scrape that thing up so they can puff it back up and stick it in the museum. God, I hope that happens.
Pose it on a tree branch.
Or just on a tire.
So I'm trying to remember who won. Was it Byron that won stage 2?
Byron won stage 2. It was a great battle at the end of stage 2 between him and Cindric and Reddick.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. Stage 3, Hocevar was able to. Hocevar was in the top 10 all day.
Yeah.
And he was able to get up there, and he was leading a good portion of it. But one of the things that we did kind of miss being in the grandstands, I had MRN in my ears the whole time, but even with earbuds in, you can't really hear that well. And we totally missed the fact that it was going to come down to a fuel mileage race. So, we're watching this, and neither of us realized that both Hocevar and Byron were going to be like 4 laps short on fuel. So we're watching this and obviously pulling for Hocevar. I like Hocevar. It would have been cool to see him get his first win. Not just his first win, but his first win at his home track. He ended up cutting a tire down with like 15, 20 to go. So that ended his day. And then probably like 10 or so laps later, Byron ran out of fuel and he had to pit, which gave the lead to Denny Hamlin, and he had to kind of hold off a couple people. Busher was on his way up there, and I think probably if he had a few extra laps, there's a good chance he would have had it, because I think he had the fastest car all day.
Or a caution
car too.
I think Busher would have smoked him if there was a restart, but
yeah. But yeah, that led to Denny Hamlin getting his 3rd win of the year, and the 2nd one I attended and saw. So I have taken Andy Newsom's mantle this season, it seems like.
Yep.
That's 2 races, 2 Denny wins for me, and can't say I was upset about that. I like Denny, and I just didn't want to see Byron win, so that worked for me.
Yeah, one of the worst front stretch interviews I've ever heard in my life. Hated that.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Sorry, Daddy.
Daddy, I'm sorry. Daddy, I'm sorry. Daddy, I'm sorry. Daddy, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'll do it again if you want.
he definitely. I thought that line was retired, but apparently not.
Yeah. I beat your favorite driver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But hey, it was a good race, and like I said, I was just happy to get to see a full Michigan race for the first time in 3 years. So we all went home happy after that. So.
Yeah, another great broadcast from the Prime folks. They do a really good job of, I imagine this is Steve Letart's contribution to the whatever meetings they have, but they do a great job of covering pit stops. And I really like that little graphic they have on the screen that shows you who actually stayed out, which incredibly is something that a lot of, I don't know if they've done that yet, period, in NASCAR broadcasts, or certainly not in a long time anyway.
Not that I can think of.
Super helpful.
Yeah.
Super fucking helpful. They do a great job, and that race was par for the course for a Prime broadcast. And yeah, I don't really have any complaints to issue about it. It was great from home.
Yeah. I mean, I was surprised that this race is now leading the Gluck Athletic. Was this a good race poll? Like it beat the Coke 600, which
it was like 92% or something like that.
Yeah, which again, I thought it was a good race, but I didn't think it was better than the Coke 600. But who am I to argue with numbers? So.
Well, you're a little biased with that one, so.
Yeah.
Fuck off. It was a good race regardless of who won. I don't want to fucking hear it.
Well, Bristol is always good for me, and you guys hate those races, so.
Because they're not good. And again,
what are you talking about? Those are the best races of the year. We're watching Kyle Larson lead 678 laps. It's perfect.
Listen, I could watch Chastain lead 500 laps, and I'd still think it was a bad race. So.
Yeah.
I am impartial in that sense. Which, speaking of Chastain, the only piece of merch that I saw that I wanted to get but didn't, and I wish I got a photo, but it was too packed at the hauler. So he has a new shirt that is just a ripoff of the old Red Man Tobacco logo, and it says Melon Man, obviously, and I wanted it, but they only had it on green, like bright green shirts, and green's like my least favorite color.
Yeah.
If they had it on a hat, I probably would have bought the hat, but I'm not wearing a green shirt, so print that on something else.
Go check it out at rosschastain.com. Actually, I want to look at this shirt. Let's see here.
Yeah,
I don't even know if it would be on there. It seemed like a brand new shirt, but I do want it.
The only note I took during this race was Corey LaJoie's nips are always so pokey.
Oh, love.
Thankfully, I missed that.
I mean,
God damn it!
Every race, that's all I can see are his nips, just diamond cutting through his shirt that's way too tight.
Old wore out surface. God damn it. Well, I hadn't noticed that, but I guess
you will
I guess I will now. So thanks for that.
You're welcome. Also, in post-race, Ty Gibbs said that he is part Mexican on his grandmother's side, so
I think I
excited
knew
to go
that.
to Mexico this weekend.
Well, he checked his 23andMe or whatever it is, and
I guess.
Yeah, that was an interesting wrinkle this weekend, and I'm sure we'll talk about it at some point. But yeah, the weekend kind of almost felt like they were rushing the teams along because they got to get to Mexico and get through customs, and there's a whole convoy they're doing down at the border. I haven't heard anything on the progress of them getting down there, but it sounds like everyone made it through the border.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything.
That's a hell of a haul from Michigan all the way down to Mexico City.
The one weird thing I would say is they any like nicotine or CBD products like on the haulers had to be like stickered off. They couldn't have any of those logos, and same thing with any alcohol content over like 6%.
Yeah.
So I thought that was strange, but
Yeah, it's pretty common internationally. That's why you see the Heineken 00 logos all over Formula One broadcasts or sports cars, shit like that. It's just not allowed in most places. Kind of the way that cigarettes are banned here.
Yeah.
Not to keep bringing up DBC, but one more note about Mexico that I thought was interesting is they had mentioned that they just found out that their radios aren't going to work down in Mexico.
Yeah, I heard that too. Yeah.
So spotters might be having a nice little margarita weekend down there and being race fans instead. I'm sure they'll get it figured out, but I guess it has something to do with the fact that the frequencies they'd be using are not cleared by the Mexican government for that use. So it would be illegal if they did so. So I guess we'll see.
Yeah, that's very strange. Especially since they're like, it's not like you can hear those signals outside the track, so I don't know why it'd be an issue.
It sounds like a clerical thing more than anything, but Formula One doesn't have that problem because they use they use digital radios.
Yeah.
So I guess they. I knew they were gonna miss something, but I didn't expect it to be that. So.
Yeah. So yeah, moving on to notes. Some sad news. Former Cup Series crew chief and car owner Travis Carter passed away today. I don't know how old he was, but he had to have been pretty old.
He was. I think he was. Here, I'll look it up just to be certain.
I gotta assume in the 80s. I would think
75.
75. Okay, so close.
Yeah, I thought he was a little older than that, just based on how long he'd been in the business. But yeah, it's a damn shame. 17 wins as a crew chief, I believe, or an owner, excuse me. And then as a crew chief, he had a championship with Benny Parsons. 11 wins as a crew chief, 126 top fives. Just a big-time guy. Of course, he was Harry Gant's crew chief for a long time, worked with Rick Mast, Benny Parsons, Bobby Allison, Dave Marcus. Just legends. So, it's a damn shame.
Let's see. We already talked about the truck stuff. After we recorded last week, it was ruled that the injunction that would have allowed both 2311 and Front Row to run as charter teams for the rest of the season was overturned. Doesn't necessarily end their case or anything like that. It leaves everything up in limbo as far as if NASCAR is going to pay them out as charters. I still don't know. Nobody really seems to know how that's going to work, and nothing has really changed. Denny still says they're going to run as scheduled. What happens after that, who knows? But
the big wrinkle. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, if they lose the charters, that's going to cause a domino effect of all sorts of bullshit.
Yeah, the big issue for the teams is the money they would get out of it. That's several $1 million per charter that they're going to lose out of the fund at the end of the year. Obviously, they can still run races. If they happen to miss, let's say at Daytona or Talladega or someplace where there's more than the 40 entrants, I guess they would be able to race or continue with the championship because they made an attempt to qualify. Yeah. But obviously, that's a big penalty in points. And, I don't really see that happening with any of those cars, to be honest with you. Like, they're all pretty fast, and they're at least fast enough to make the show. Front Row is the one who really gets screwed out of all of this. They don't have a Michael Jordan with a fat fucking checkbook sitting at home. So yeah, we don't know. We don't know how this is going to work out. But I don't think people are kind of making a big deal out of this, and it is a big deal. Don't get me wrong, but I'm a little surprised that people are as shocked as they are because Denny and all those guys are kind of asking for the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
And that's just not how this shit typically works. Like, NASCAR's not going to pay them out money. If they end up winning the lawsuit, then they're going to be owed that money back because those charters were null and void, and it opens up a whole can of worms, I guess. So, yeah, definitely it's going to keep being ugly. Yep. I think we'd all kind of forgotten about it for a little bit, but it's back. So
yeah. Speaking of Denny, though, so he wasn't sure when they recorded his podcast on Monday what his plan was going to be because his wife is still not given birth. I know last week it was
thrilled about it, I'm sure.
Still has not popped the kid out, but today Denny mentioned on I think Sirius that if she has not had the child by Thursday, which is when everybody's scheduled to leave, then Denny is not going to go. Yeah. Which at this point, Denny's one of the only two guys there that's actually run this track. So it's not like he's got a little more experience than everybody else. So, I wouldn't really worry about his chances in the race. But he's also got 3 wins. He's got plenty of playoff points. So,
yeah, not a huge penalty.
It's not going to really screw up his season if he can't make it. And, they've already got Ryan Truex ready to go. So I'm sure the car will do. Yeah, he's still on retainer, so I'm sure they'll do fine without him if he can't go.
Kyle Busch desperately searching for a child he can claim right now to keep from dealing with the federales once he gets down to Mexico City.
Well, yeah, he's the only other one that has experience on this track too, but only a couple stupid responses, and one of those is I think Jason from Texas's new account, who is just like.
He's the average.
Yeah, I forget it's Mark something or other, but if you look, he's got the exact same. the way he posts, it's the exact same way. He's super into Larson. He posts the same thing 4 or 5 times. It's the same fucking guy. Like, whoever that is has like 4 or 5 accounts, and once one shits the bed, he just starts another one. So, yeah, he was like, the average childbirth only takes 14 hours. Then he would miss 4 days. Like, he's just trying to get out of this.
Yeah, if there's anybody I would trust about the ins and outs of childbirth, it'd be a man named Jason from Texas.
Yeah.
Clearly, he's the guy you want to go to. It's definitely above any women. Don't ask women. Ask Jason.
No. Other social media fun. So Brandon Brown from Let's Go Brandon fame. We haven't heard much from him. I want to, surprisingly. So I was looking at his Twitter account when he made this tweet. The last tweet he made prior to this one, I'm going to say in a second, was on Election Day. He's like, so now that Biden's out, can Let's Go Brandon die already? Which is funny, and nobody really reacted to that. This past weekend, though, he tweeted this out. Unfortunately, he became Let's Go Brandon and lost the race team. Trump partners with Elon Musk, so my Tesla won't sell. The president leads the housing market to volatile state, so my house can't sell. Long story short, Trump, can you quit fucking me over?
Really getting it. In a very real and tangible way here. I feel for Brandon Brown, man.
I do still feel bad for him. I mean, he the whole Let's Go Brandon thing, that was not his doing until he decided to lean into it with the coin. And this also brought up the discourse of, I could have either gotten a $250,000 check from my current sponsor, or the meme coin was going to give me $11 million. What would you have done? Well, knowing what we know about meme coins, I would have stuck with the $250,000. So, it's on you, bud. You made that choice. And then finally,
I guess I didn't realize how serious he was when he first tweeted about it, asking if the Let's Go Brandon thing can finally die. I think everyone took that as a joke, and he was actually pleading to the public to let that die. Deep financial hurt.
So, Rob, since you were doing your home renovation stuff this weekend, I'm assuming you found this Paul Menard gift card.
Actually, this comes from a friend of the program, Kyle Armstrong, who was out in the Midwest. Him and a bunch of our friends were out at Eldora over the weekend. Of course, Kyle's with Simpson right now, and he got there a couple days early to set up the trailer and get ready for 4 days at the Big E. And I guess he stopped into a Menards to pick up some supplies, a bucket of earplugs, whatever the fuck you would need for a weekend a week at the racetrack, not just a weekend. And he sent us all a photo of just a straight up Paul Menard gift card. No team, no number, nothing. It just says Paul Menard on it. And I guess you can, I don't know if this is for all Menard's locations or just Paul Menard specifically. Like, you can swipe this thing and it'll come mow your lawn or some shit. But yeah, I imagine they've made thousands of these after his Brickyard 400 win. And they just are still getting rid of them. So I don't know if anyone's buying Paul Menard gift cards, but if you are in the Ohio area, you can certainly pick one up, and we'll post a picture of this, and who knows, maybe we'll start handing these out as Christmas gifts or something.
And then the big news that came out today, which pretty much annoyed everyone in the racing world, Formula One announced. Now, we all knew that the Monaco Grand Prix, part of the big motorsports Christmas ceremony, was going away. It is being replaced with the Montreal Grand Prix, which will be going on at the same time as the Indy 500.
Yeah.
I don't
That's
think...
assumed anyway. They haven't announced what time, but they're not going to start that shit at like 8 in the morning. There's no question about that.
No, absolutely not. This is just ridiculous. It really just shows F1's hubris at this point. I know obviously there are some logistical things with wanting to schedule the two North American races close to each other, but it's really ridiculous. I mean, I feel like F1's fan base, most of them, don't really care about other forms of motorsports because they're not real race fans, so it probably won't affect ratings too much. But I feel like anybody who actually
not for the 500 anyway.
Yeah, anybody who actually likes racing is going to watch the Indy 500 over F1. So, I hope this fails miserably, but we'll see what happens next.
I mean, I think they'll be fine internationally, but I think even in the UK and in Europe, they'll probably lose a little bit. I mean, the Indy 500 is one of the biggest sporting events in the world. So, I mean, and again, we do live in a digital world. It's possible to watch two things at once. I will not be doing that. I don't usually watch the Canadian Grand Prix anyway, so it doesn't really change much of anything for me. But, yeah, definitely a shame. And I guess this is a once in a five-year occurrence, apparently. That's what Liberty Media has clarified. And that they, I guess they...
Leap year?
Well, they changed the schedule around, and so yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking. I was like... Maybe it is a leap year. Who the fuck knows? But I don't know, man. Like, it is a bummer. And like you said, Brian, I really don't think that most IndyCar fans in particular, you know, because every single IndyCar fan in the U.S. is watching the 500. I think that's probably a good chunk of F1's fan base. Same with the NASCAR fans. You know, it's American Motorsports fans. And most people are going to read this as bullshit, and they're just not going to watch at all. So, yeah, not a good move here in the U.S. But, again, international sport, I guess who really cares at the end of the day, and I wouldn't be watching that shit anyway, so.
Yeah. Before we dive into the septic tank, there's one little note that I just got reminded of just now. So, do you guys know who Matt Hagen is? He's the funny car driver for Tony Stewart. And
yeah, okay.
So an Instagram post came across my feed, and I was like, "What the fuck is this?" So Matt Hagen, he is on the Paul Tracy HGH cycle. It looks like being a middle-aged man with the big muscle gut from whatever steroids he's on. Mm-hmm. And every race weekend, he posts race day fits just in ridiculous outfits. And this most recent one is him wearing a green suede jacket, some looks like some alligator boots, and just no shirt underneath, and a really stupid cowboy hat. And I was looking at his feed, and he does this every single race, and he wears the most ridiculous outfits. He's sponsored by Hulk Hogan's beer company, which you know tells you enough about what kind of person he is. I don't know anything about him, but I don't like him at all. Like, that just immediately.
He looks like half of Montgomery Gentry in this picture, or like Big and Rich or some shit.
Yeah.
His absolute spray tanned on.
Yeah, he is doing way too much for his look. Much like Paul Tracy, I am now deeming him in drag racing's Paul Tracy. So. Fuck this guy.
Speaking of the NHRA, Tony Stewart's still on top of the point standings last I checked, so good for him.
Yeah, good
he
for
has
him.
Figured out that top fuel dragster.
Yeah.
Brian, I have one more question about your trip to Michigan.
Sure.
Did you get in any fights over Ernie Irvan this year?
No, nobody said anything. Although I did get, while we were on that little break, there was a big fat guy in a Rascal scooter smoking a cigarette, wearing all Blaney merch. Who's like, "I love your shirt, man." So
hell yeah.
Nobody checking my knowledge. Although somebody on Twitter, I will say, because I posted, I hope somebody challenges my Ernie Irvan knowledge. And some guy was like, "How many times did you race in Mexico?" I was like, "None." He's like, "Good, that's how it should be." I'm like, "Well, that's a horrible take, asshole," and just never responded. So, yeah. So yeah, that's that, I think, and from there, it seems like it's time to dive into the septic tank.
It is, and there's not many events I'm going to be talking about, but there's a whole lot I'm going to be talking about from Eldora, of course, the 31st running of the Dream, the Dirt Late Model Dream at Eldora. What a fucking race this is, and what a race this was this weekend. They were fighting rain pretty much the entire weekend, which was kind of a bummer. Schedule did get kind of moved around a little bit because of it, and we'll get into that in a few minutes here. But just some notes before we really dive into the action on track. So a few really badass looking race cars out there this weekend. Of course, we already talked about Bobby Pierce throwing back to his dad's ride. That thing looked absolutely beautiful on the racetrack. I'm sure he sold a butt ton of merch there, so good for him. And that car was fast as fuck too. At least when the actual Dream, not so much on the Flow Racing Night in America show, but also Ashton Winger, really, really nice Freddie Smith throwback, the 00 out there. That thing looked fucking awesome. I know at least our friends from North Carolina were probably very excited to see that, as I was at home. I got a Freddie Smith sticker on my laptop, and that car looked absolutely beautiful. And then, of course, I think the perennial fan favorite, Tyler Erb, he always brings good-looking wraps to the Dream, and this year he brought a version of the General Lee. Didn't have the flag on top, but he replaced it with the American flag, and it still looked pretty badass. And he beat the shit out of that car, just like the Duke boys did with the actual one on the TV show. All weekend. But yeah, lots of good-looking cars out there, but those are definitely the three most notable ones that I enjoyed. Did you guys catch anything else that I'm missing, or pretty much sum it up?
I didn't get to watch any of it this weekend, so I'm learning in real time.
Nice. All right. Also, a sad note, Ricky Weiss did make the trek down to Eldora. He raced on Wednesday night for the Flow Racing Night in America show, but he had to turn around and go home. I guess there was a death in the family. I think there's more details out there about who it was. I didn't look it up, so I'm not going to speculate. But thoughts and prayers with his family. Damn shame to haul all the way down to Ohio and have to turn back around. But hey, family comes first, and good on him for doing that. And one more note here. Don't you even fucking think about bootlegging Scott Bloomquist merchandise. Let me tell you. Arizona Sports Shirts, they sent out, I believe it was them anyway, they sent out this memo to all the teams participating in the Dream, letting them know that the time of using all the Bloomquist imagery and IP and everything has come to a close, which makes sense. A lot of people were kind of pissed off about it, but I see where they're coming from. I mean, Scott died last year, right before the World. His funeral was at the World, and of course everybody wanted to pay tribute, and there was all sorts of merch going around, bootleg stuff, teams, throwbacks. There was like a bunch of different Bloomquist-looking cars out there. But yeah, basically anything with his likeness is no longer allowed, and I mean, you can't make bootleg Dale Earnhardt merchandise either, so it kind of makes sense to me.
I saw a bunch of negative comments about the Arizona Sports Shirts guys, which I don't know. As a T-shirt guy, I feel like I should know more about that type of drama, but I don't. I just know they've been doing dirt shirts for 50 years at this point. So
yeah, I don't know enough about it to have an opinion either way. I've met those guys, and I enjoyed hanging with them. I've heard the same criticisms that you're probably bringing up, but at the same time, like, they do own the copyright, and it is what it is. And I own a Nick Hoffman shirt that has every single thing they listed on there you can't do on it. So I kind of see why they want to tamp that down a little bit.
Yeah, and,
but it is what it is.
I guess we might as well mention this here though as well. The NTSC report came out today that Scott's death was ruled as a suicide. So we all kind of knew that, I think, especially if
I wouldn't even call it an open secret. It was just kind of accepted knowledge in circles, around this thing. But
people can have their theories about it. We won't get too deep into what we know, but I'll say this, that, suicide's a tough thing, but there's also a little bit of nobility in going out the way you want to. And, again, from all intents and purposes, it sounds like Scott's cancer was back, and he was having other troubles as well. And
he was in a rough spot. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, kind of like, Hunter S. Thompson, he seemed like that's kind of what he always wanted. It was mentioned that he talked about this before, that he wasn't going to go out naturally. So, if you're going to do it, flying a plane into a building is a pretty wild way to do it.
Not just a plane in a building, but your favorite plane into the building where it all started.
So
it's poetic.
Yeah, for sure. So, not a surprise, but still sad to have that come out.
I had forgotten all about the fact that they never really made an official ruling on that, and I was surprised to see it from Bob Pockris of all people, because he doesn't really cover dirt racing all that much. But that's where I learned it from, and it's as a fan, it was tough to read that again. Out of all the celebrity deaths in the world that I've never cared about, this is certainly one that I did actually care about, and kind of moved me and all my friends. It's tough to revisit that and just know that that's actually what was going on. And I guess, for a lot of people, I'm sure it's nice to just put it to rest. Like, we all heard the speculation. We all knew, like you said, but it's nice to actually to know. I think, and hopefully some closure can come to everybody. And I don't think this will soil the legacy at all. And if it does for you, then you clearly didn't pay attention to Scott Bloomquist all that much.
No, I mean, I think if anything, again, it's sad, but I feel like it's a fitting ending to a guy who was just one of those larger-than-life characters. So
yeah, absolutely,
it all kind of works out, But that leads us to more Eldora talk because that's where all the action was this
That's
weekend.
right. So, of course, the dream is 3 nights in total with a bonus 4th night on Wednesday. The Flow Racing Night in America Series kicked the week off on Wednesday night. Jonathan Davenport... I'm sorry, not John Davenport. Bobby Pierce won, which no surprises there. Everyone was expecting him to do really well at Eldora. His bad luck didn't really kick off until, or not bad luck, but the ominous tone and presence of Jonathan Davenport didn't really show up until Thursday night. There was a point where Bobby Pierce was lapping Jonathan Davenport, and I was just like, well, that's fucking it right there. If he's doing it on Wednesday night, there's no way anybody's catching up to this motherfucker. And that was almost true, but I guess we'll get into that as we move along with the weekend here. Hudson O'Neill having a good run in the SSI 71, getting second, and Dale McDowell, of course, always showing up at Eldora, ripping that bottom line obsessively, picking up 3rd place on Wednesday night. Thursday was exciting. All the heat races were great. If you couldn't pick the lineups and the way those heats settled out of a hat, if you tried, some really surprise winners. Austin Smith just is being probably the biggest surprise out of all of them. But a lot of folks you would not be expecting to be winning heat races, winning them, and a lot of guys who you'd expect to actually be winning them, not winning them, and being pretty buried and having some work to do. Unfortunately, they got right up to the middle of B-Main 2, which, by the way, Tyler Carpenter struggled all weekend, had kind of a tough time. Both of the Carpenter cars, those Kryptonite chassis, had some trouble throughout the entire weekend. But Tyler was working his way up through the B-Main, and I think he was fast enough to get his way into the transfer spot. But unfortunately, the rain started falling right just shy of halfway, and Eldora decided to call that heat race as is, and so Tyler ended up locking himself into the show. That is, of course, you get to go through all the heats and everything and try and make the back of the field on Saturday, but he ended up opting not to because both, like I said, both Carpenter cars had some issues, and I think Tyler, I forget exactly how it all went down, but Freddie had a better shot of making the show, I guess, based on where they were seated, and so Tyler gave up his car and taped a big old C4 on the side of his 28 and gave it to his dad to run, which I thought was sweet.
Well, Father's Day's coming up, so.
Yeah, it's true. That's a hell of a Father's Day gift, giving your dad a shot at the big show. Friday, oh, by the way, they moved to A-Main for Thursday to the end of the Friday night show. So we were blessed with double features on Friday night, which, I got no problem with that. One funny note from Friday, I forget who the tire came off of, but there was a shot of these 2 Hoosier reps just staring at this tire that was completely exploded. It was like half a carcass left, and they were looking at it trying to figure out what was wrong with it, which I guess you can do that with half of a carcass, but it was just really funny to watch these guys looking at this fucked up ass tire. Maybe they can resell it, but the A-Main on Friday night was pretty badass. Shout out to Timothy Culp before we get into that. He, one of my favorite Arkansas drivers, he put on a show all weekend and really showed that he can hang with the big dogs at these big-time shows. Jonathan Davenport, after getting lapped on Wednesday night, found something. There's a lot of talk about maybe JD had bent the car he'd won all these races with, because he typically runs the same car at Eldora every single time, and obviously Jonathan's super talented, but that car is just custom fit to Eldora for whatever reason, and there was talk about maybe he had damaged it or something was up with it, but that is not the case because he absolutely waxed him on Friday night. Ricky Thornton Jr. and Brandon Overton definitely challenged, but nothing really came of any of that, and Jonathan Davenport picked up the win. The Thursday A-Main was fucking wild. I mean, again, all the racing was so good. The heat races were chaos. A lot of 3 wide, a lot of big moves. The track was super rough, lots of character, very tall cushion, which we saw some guys flip off of. Probably the worst of these came right at the beginning of the Thursday A main, where Carson Ferguson was running up towards the front, caught his right rear on the cushion and flipped, and then Chris Simpson just nailed him right in the cage. And it was one of those wrecks that you saw where you just felt it in your stomach. I was like, oh, fuck. We might have just seen something here, you know?
Yeah, the cameras immediately pulled back. Like, they didn't want... I mean, thankfully, the hit came in the right side of the cars.
Yeah.
Didn't really come too close to the driver, but...
Couple inches, man.
Could have been bad. Could have been bad.
Apparently, Chris Simpson was more worse for the wear than Carson was. He was complaining about some leg pain after that, which that makes sense. You know, you just buried your fucking late model underneath another one, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, the cockpits are kind of offset to the left and not centered, like a car normally would be, and thank God that's the case, because otherwise that could have been a lot worse. Not the only flip of the night. Will Harrington, I believe he put it rubber side up while leading the race, or at least up towards the front. Will had a lot of speed and just kept stepping on it and kept having problems, jumping the cushion, whatever, and eventually flipped it, took himself out of contention. Hudson O'Neal also had a big wreck, but the story of the night here, if you know last week and you listened to my Dream preview, I kept talking about Josh Rice. I don't even know if you call him an underdog anymore because he always runs so good at Eldora. But this motherfucker put on an absolute show and ended up getting the win on that Thursday A main, and gave one of the most emotional Victory Lane interviews I've ever seen. It means a lot to that team. They're not running full time on the big tours. They kind of pop into big events here and there, and they do a lot of hunt the front stuff. But they're not on the level of a Jonathan Davenport or a Ricky Thornton or like a Kohler Motorsports or anything like that. These guys who run everywhere all the time with the big tours. That's just not who they are. But when they do show up, they have speed, and it was badass to see this kid obviously getting the biggest win of his career without question, and locking himself into a good position for the show on Saturday. He was crying in Victory Lane. Usually I hate that, but it was nice. I liked it from Josh. And he's kind of listing off all the things that could have gone wrong and blah, 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 and how much it means to win it. And then my favorite quote of the weekend, and he's like, $20,000, shit. And I hooped and hollered when that happened. So, shout out to Josh Rice. He ended up having a pretty good dream, but I guess we can get into the Saturday shit now. They started the race a little bit earlier than expected. I believe this is because they were trying to get it in before some rain came in. Yeah. So it was just daytime pretty much for the whole race, which is really bizarre to see at Eldora, running a feature in the sunshine, especially when it's sort of on time. I guess you forget how much difference that hour will make.
Yeah.
But yeah, some notes from the heats. Tyler Erb picking up a win. Chris Ferguson, the older one, big sexy. Not Brandon Shepard, I'm sorry, I'm fucking all this up. But Chris Ferguson ended up picking a win. Jimmy Owens, the Newport Nightmare, picked up one. Brandon Shepard, Brian's new favorite in the Rocket 1. Dale McDowell and Shane Clanton won their heats. Those last two put McDowell and Clanton on the front row, which that's a fucking throwback right there. Those guys were the front row at the Dream back in 2004. So it's nice to see the old dogs get one. In fact, they were asking Dale McDowell about being on the front row, and if he remembered the last time this happened in 2004, and he just said, I can't remember that long ago, which I believe. So, also after those heats, we got two very different interviews coming from Tyler Erb and Chris Ferguson. Tyler Erb led his interview off with I forget what the question was. He's like, "Yeah, we're fucking trying out there, man," and that was something to that effect. And then Chris Ferguson's was essentially a Bible study. So those were within 5 minutes of each other. The yin and yang of the dirt late model community. Please don't sue me, Arizona Sports Shirts.
My buddy Mike, who he's been on the show before. He just figured out a new illegal feed for flow racing and dirt vision and stuff.
Oh,
and he was pleasantly surprised by the drivers' interviews. He's like, these are way better than NASCAR. I'm like, yeah, they can say wherever the hell they want.
Oh, they let it rip, yeah. Yeah, lots of cussing to the point where my wife was like, They can say that on TV. It's like, oh, we're not on TV, honey. This is pay-per-view. Oh, man, the Last Chance qualifier was up next. Kohler Motorsports picked up a win there with the Sun. That was nice. Jason Jamieson picked up a win as well. He put on a good show. I don't think anyone really expected that, but I did pick him in Dirt Draft, and it made me look like a little bit of a genius until I actually looked at it, and about half the guys I picked didn't even make the A-main, so, yeah.
Which, speaking of Dirt Draft, I will say that the fact that you got to pay just to play these games means I probably won't be joining.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a social thing. It's cheap, but yeah, you get points out of it, and you can get like pit passes and subscriptions and tickets.
Oh, so you don't even
t-shirts.
win money?
No, it's illegal.
Oh, fuck that.
I
then.
think
no, thank you.
I imagine in the future, whenever they're able to, they'll probably move into that realm, and then it'll be a lot more worth it for a lot of people. But this is really just for fun. It's not the only dirt racing fantasy out there. I know My Race Pass has their own, but I was kind of bullied into it at the Dream a couple years ago, and I didn't want to be left out of picking people. And you can use it to gamble, too, just amongst yourselves. And I just never canceled the subscription, and I just do it every week now. So at one point, I was like 12th in the United States for the Lucas Oil Late Model Tour. Oh, wow. And then I got drunk on Memorial Day and forgot to set my lineup, and now we're back down in the dumpster where I belong. But yeah, like I said, a very old school front row, and actually a very old school front of the pack for this race. So with Shane Clanton on the pole and Dale McDowell on the outside. Pretty cool to see. Dale led the first few laps, working the bottom, but then all the usual characters kind of worked their way through. It was a lot of tire issues in this race. Again, very, very rough racetrack, very rough cushion. A lot of guys blowing right rears, which is what makes Jonathan Davenport's win all that more impressive. He picked up the win about probably a fourth of the way through the race and never really looked back and just kind of set sail. And obviously you're not working your tires all that hard when you're out front and not dealing with dirty air and traffic and all that. So that definitely helped. But the fact that Bobby Pierce and Nick Hoffman were both able to work their way back through the field after having issues, blowing tires, having to come into the work area and get things sorted out and putting on some new shoes. And they got out there and they worked their way all the way through the field to pick up second and third. Some just badass runs all the way from the back of the field. Tim McCready also had a strong showing in fourth. Yep. Devin Moran came all the way from the very, very back. Really rough week for him, but he managed to salvage fifth place out of that. So that's probably my drive of the week right there is Devin Moran coming all the way from the back. And he was really fast. And honestly, if the tires weren't such an issue, he probably would have made it a little bit further up, but he burnt off his shit probably about 20 laps to go. And
well, yeah, Bobby, he pitted too to get tires. I remember that.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, and again, like not a rough weekend for Bobby Pierce, but it just never really seemed to come together for him 100%.
I feel like he might have had more of a shot if he got tires earlier. Maybe he was coming on strong at the end, but I still wasn't near where he should have been.
But that's the thing about it for those of you not familiar with Eldora or dirt racing at all. Tire changes are not something you typically want to do. You try to avoid having to change tires. And the fact that it ended up, Nick Hoffman and Bobby Pierce and others were able to, make lemonade out of those lemons was pretty crazy. It's not something you see all the time. But man, what a great show. I enjoyed all of it. Also, shout out to Josh Rice. He ended up in ninth, kind of hung around top 5, 7th place, kind of that area for a while. And I think he kind of burned his stuff up too and fell back a little bit. The sun was still up when this race finished, by the way. So that was very strange. But yeah, absolute ass whooping from Jonathan Davenport. And I mean, he's the best there is at Eldora right now. I'd said it a few times. Everyone had their eye on Bobby Pierce as being the guy, and after Wednesday night, I think that was the expectation. But they figured it out. Lance Landers and Jonathan Davenport and that whole team, they took home a nice fat $100,000 paycheck for their troubles. And the 50-50, pretty low this time. I think it was only like $20,000 or something like that. It seemed like I think they always have issues with the 50-50 at Eldora, it seems, because they were talking about having to check Facebook to see who won and all that shit. And I think $20,000 seems a little low for that event, even though the crowd was a little thin, I would imagine, due to weather.
I mean, the 50-50 for The 100 was over $100,000 last year.
Yeah, the Dream I went to was like 120 or something like that, and yeah, the World was over 100,000. So yeah, big. Really surprised to see that, but I guess they were having some trouble. So I don't know what it actually ended up being or who won. It wasn't me, I can tell you that. But also, our Darf of the Week comes from Eldora this weekend. After the race, the Flow guys are down there in the pits. Interviewing whoever, just talking about the race, and there's a couple of like yee girls that kind of come up and are waving and acting a fool in the background, as you do, right? And then they kind of clear out, and there's just this kid in board shorts just playing with his dick, just stretching it out, moving the shorts around, just adjusting. Like maybe he picked up something in the campground, either a perennial disease or perhaps is just a little chafed. From being out in the wet and the dry, just the crazy weather condition. Who knows what's going on? But he was messing with himself on television. For television, it's for cussing, it's just it's pay-per-view. But for this, it's just national television to me. Like there are 100,000 people watching you play with your dick on their TVs. And you, sir, are my Darf for the week. I don't think you need to be punished anymore for that because it seems like you're already carrying the punishment here. But we'll post the video. And you guys can see what I saw because I was appalled.
Yeah.
It's okay to adjust.
That video, and I watched it like 3 times on mute because I couldn't turn up the volume where I was at to hear you.
It's probably best you didn't.
But in my notes, all I wrote down was Darf. Dude Tuggin.
Yeah. Caught Tuggin. That might be the name of the episode this week. Caught Tuggin.
There you go.
But, yeah, badass show at Eldora. I really enjoyed it. Definitely a weird one. But again, these big weekends always bring a lot of people together. Again, shout out to all the homies from North Carolina: Ken, Bob, Kyle, Justin. James Honeycutt made it out there too. All the guys that went to Williams Grove were out there at Eldora this weekend. Had a nice thread going with Kyle Ayala, former guest and good friend of the program, watching this shit. I think pretty much anybody who was watching this who wasn't there has decided that the World 100 is probably the next big event on their list, and I mean it's the biggest one of them all. So hopefully we see all y'all out there because I expect it. If it's anything like we saw this past week, you're in for a treat, and it's worth every penny. So, and Brien can attest to that. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah. 100%.
There was a bunch of other racing this weekend. I didn't watch a ton of it. I know Midget Week happened. I don't have any highlights written down for that. I'm sure I'll remember some stuff I wanted to talk about after the show's over. But, so it goes. I did watch a couple high limit races. Red Cedar, Rico Abreu picked up a win. At 141, the upset of the fucking century took place. Travis Arendz stunned the sprint car world by picking up a win over all the high limit regulars. Most notably Bill Balog, who has apparently more wins than anyone else in 141 history, which is crazy. That's pretty much, it is his home track, and he's kind of a legend there. And the fact that Travis was able to go out there as essentially a rookie, and he convincingly whooped their asses just riding the bottom. No one could get to him. So biggest win of his career. And, of course, when you do that, you celebrate by jumping into the pond in the middle of the racetrack. So that was fun to watch. Over in World of Outlaw country, they made their way up to Wisconsin and Minnesota. Carson Macedo won at Jackson. Everybody who was at the High Limit show, or a good chunk of the High Limit regulars, went over to invade the Plymouth show. Rico Abreu ended up picking up a win there. And I guess there was some quite the to-do about these guys not being able to set up their merch trailers in the merch area or the fan zone, and weren't permitted to sell their merch on the property at all, I guess. I mean, I don't know what's stopping them from selling in the pits, but I know when you have a big trailer like Rico or Larson or any of the bigger high limit guys or bigger sprint car guys, that's not exactly feasible to just pull inventory out and sell out of the back of the trailer. So that kind of sucks. I guess this has been a rule for a while with the World of Outlaws, where if you're not a full timer, you can't set up in the area. But
it seems very petty.
I don't know. I was at Williams Grove, and there was. I bought a fucking Lucas Wolf hat. He's not a full timer, so maybe it's track to track. I have no idea how the agreements work, or maybe the Pennsylvania fans would run the Outlaws out of town if they pulled some shit like that there. But yeah, definitely very petty, especially when High Limit allows everyone to sell there, at least to the best of my knowledge. But Rico did quite the sales pitch on Twitter to go to his website and pick up merch if you couldn't get it from him there. And I thought it was funny that he ended up winning that race after running his mouth, so I really appreciated that. And then just to twist the knife in the World of Outlaws, Brad Sweet picked up a win at Beaver Dam.
That's perfect.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Speaking of high limit, they're going to be at Eagle Raceway right now, actually. I'm watching the A-Main as we speak. But we'll talk about the highlights probably either at the end of the show or next week. World of Outlaws are at Knoxville, getting warmed up for the Nationals coming up. I forget the name of the event, the Chevy Dealers Classic, something like that. But you'll see all the stars and cars, a 410 racing there this weekend. Lucas Oil late models are at Smoky Mountain for a few nights. That's going to be a good show. Speaking of late models, the Hell Tour is kicked off, folks. They got one hell of a schedule going right now. Brownstown, Kankakee, Peoria, Tri-City, Fairbury, Sycamore, Wilmot, and that's just all the ones that happen between now and the next episode. I believe there's a couple more after that. There's a lot more, actually. Hell Tour is such a badass show. And Tyler Erb was your champion of the Hell Tour last year. You can watch all that on Dirt Vision. On the pavement side of things, the Wheel of Modified Tour is at Riverhead this weekend. Also, a little bit of drama there. The track itself has barred Dave Sapienza from entering, even though he's a Modified Tour regular. So definitely a weird little beef between NASCAR and the track. It definitely sets a weird precedent to ban guys from NASCAR events when NASCAR hasn't done that as well. It's just like I don't know. I forget exactly what happened with him, but there was some drama between Sap and track ownership, and now he's not able to set foot on the property for this event. So, yeah, definitely a little weird, but I guess we'll see how that gets sorted out. And the Cars Tour is at Dominion this weekend, which is a cool racetrack as well. But that's the septic tank. And, oh, yeah, one more thing. Speaking of short tracks, I believe if the weather holds out, me and the These Wild Plains boys are going to be heading up to Star Speedway this weekend on Saturday night. We got some rehearsals up in Salem, and, fuck it, the racetrack's about 45 minutes north of there, so we're going to go watch some 350 Supers and some shit boxes and maybe take our bass player's kid to the racetrack for the first time. So hopefully the rain holds off. Apparently this kid loves racing. He makes him watch Formula One because it's the only thing they can find on TV, I guess. And then my bandmate, he'll read him some NASCAR book he has and play race car sounds for him, and he's got all the toys and everything. And anytime Uncle Rob comes over, it's all he wants to talk about. So I think we're going to show him the real thing this weekend.
That's cool.
Which is going to be fun. So yeah, if you happen to be up in Epping at Star Speedway, which again I don't think you will, but if you are, come track us down. We'll stick out like a sore thumb, and I'd love to have a beer with you. Let's go ahead and flush this down, and let's watch the Family Channel.
All right, so video of the week was a harkening back to my childhood, which did you guys watch this show at all? Had you seen it?
So I thought I hadn't, but within 30 seconds of starting this video, I remembered watching this on TV. The intro, being in the Universal Studios lot with the big screen that they filmed ocean scenes on. Like, I've been on the tour when I was a little kid, and I remember like seeing this when I was a little kid. I was like, oh fuck, I've been on that tour. It's right there. You can see the little tram going by, and of course it's kids on fucking dirt bikes. So what else do you want as a 9-year-old?
It brought back like vague memories of watching that show, but I was more of like a Guts kid. So
yeah, I mean, there's a reason why this show only lasted like 3 months. Like, it's not
literally it became very obvious after watching this episode.
Yeah. So, yeah, Maximum Drive. This was a multi-discipline racing show with teams of three teams of 3 kids each, of varying ages, which we kind of get into here with the notes and whatnot. This particular episode was the Ducks versus the Cobras versus the Lions. I thought before we watched it, I was like, what the fuck is this title about? And then I realized that's just what every episode. The teams have stupid names like that, and there's 3 hosts, which I didn't catch any of their names. Doesn't really matter anyways, and I hardly caught any of the kids' names. But
was this before Legends of the Hidden Temple?
I mean, it was in '94. I don't know when Legends. I feel like Legends of the Hidden Temple is around the same time. Like all these, I think all 3 of the shows, like Guts too, were on kind of all at the same time. But this, like I mentioned last week, was for sure during the time when Family Channel sponsored NASCAR. So I have a feeling that's why they decided to do a racing show that really had nothing to do with NASCAR or anything. So
Yeah.
it starts off with, so before we get into the actual racing itself, so the track all events happen on this one singular track. And, they alter and they run the track backwards for different events and things like that. So it's just, again, like Rob mentioned, this back lot on the Universal Studios Florida lots. And it's I don't know. It's not a very exciting track because, again, these are all children, so you're not going to see big jumps or anything like that. But they start off with an Argo race, which, for those not familiar, the Argo is the little six-wheeled amphibious vehicle thing, which, funny enough, going back to Lancelot Link, there was definitely an episode where they drove those on Lancelot Link. Of course there was.
As well. Also, one of my favorite arcs of the Trailer Park Boys heavily features an Argo when they try to send the weed across the Canadian border with the little train. So
I forgot. I remember that storyline, but I didn't realize they had an Argo involved. Now I just remember Sebastian Bach being involved.
It was the Park Dicks or the Forest Dicks that were driving around.
There we go. So yeah, this race I think had the younger kids driving them, and not a very exciting race. I mean, these things don't go very fast, but almost immediately one kid biffs it on the hay bales and almost tips the thing over. They have to go through a gator pit, which is just like a fucking little mud pit. Yeah. The red one who almost shit the bed at the start ends up coming back and almost getting the lead, but all three of them get stuck in the gator pit at one point. Another kid loses on the hay bale yet again. These things have cameras on the cars, and you see them going through the mud pit and whatnot. I would say the funniest and weirdest part of this entire show was the host interviewing the kid after he won, and he's spraying the kid's goggles with water because, obviously the kid's all muddy and whatnot. But then the host himself goes, "This is real mud, folks. It's not chocolate. I'm not gonna lick it, but I'm gonna wipe it on my face." I'm like, "What the fuck was that?"
Yeah, that's Joe Fowler, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, just the most bizarre comment in the entire fucking show.
So I looked into this motherfucker, and I didn't realize there was a wrestling connection with this guy.
There was?
Did you? Yeah, he was for like 3 months. He was with the WWF, and he replaced Gene Okerlund.
Oh God, clearly, I was watching wrestling at the time, but yeah, he was. Yeah, I
think he did like SummerSlam or some shit like that, and that was it.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and look, but not a surprise he didn't last very long.
And also, you may recognize this guy as the host of the infomercials for the Lizard Hose and the Omelet Express.
I can't say I'm familiar with those.
And that's where the Wikipedia runs out. So yeah, kind of a sad career, which culminated in the pinnacle here, which is Maximum Drive, apparently.
Yeah.
Whoever was doing the play-by-play was way too enthusiastic about the slowest race ever in that mud pit. So.
Well, you had to hype it up for the kids. You had to make it seem exciting.
My other favorite part of this was the official, who was just this guy. He was like an old guy. Like they picked him off of a little league field. It's the most uninterested official with the worst flag etiquette I've ever seen in my life. We'll get into that in a second, though.
The next race was a race on XR80s with older kids that were all around 13 and 14 years old. I thought one kid looked a lot like Carson Hocevar, but then I realized that Carson was not even born yet, not even close. He's only 22, Christ. So he was still, his parents were probably still in high school when this was filmed.
All kids kind of look like Carson Hocevar.
That's kind of fair. And yeah, the XR80 race was on the same track. They just ran it reverse, and I think they changed a little bit of the course where they avoided the mud pits and all that, and kind of made it a little bit longer. But one kid was really slow and was like way far behind, and the Lions team won this one. There was only one commercial this entire thing, and it was for the Street Sharks, like these little Street Sharks puppets. Which I was not a Street Sharks kid, and I didn't play with action figures or anything. So like I knew what these were, but I didn't have any of the toys or anything like that. So
the best part is when they made the Street Sharks puppet eat a jelly donut.
Mm-hmm. That was good.
The next up were the ATVs, and they actually gave both an environmental and a safety disclaimer before this, talking about how like it meets all environmental standards, and the parents are there, and there's pros that run the courses before the kids and kind of show them how to do it, and I guess that all makes sense for liability reasons. However,
we don't touch these children. It's perfectly safe. Nope, not at all. It's a victim on a production. We're not Nickelodeon. It's okay.
Mm-hmm. But speaking of liability, so these things are the fastest vehicles they're on the whole time, and one kid eats shit on the hay bales and holds up the kid behind him. The kid who wins has pretty much a full lap lead on the other two, and then the kid in third is pissed off and his quad's fucked up, and he keeps like smashing the handlebars the whole time, which I thought that was pretty funny. And then for some reason they interviewed the kid that was in second place, and he was just like very tired and out of it.
Yeah.
Next up, so Wikipedia had this wrong. They called this the Bike Jam, and they were actually on BMX bikes, because Wikipedia said they did a BMX race on mountain bikes, and that just infuriated me. But no, they were on actual BMX bikes, which the brand was Free Agent, which BMX heads will at least know that brand as being a shitty racing brand. So not a surprise, I guess, because they're only in '93. There were only a handful of BMX brands around. This was still kind of in the BMX lull years. They had all 9 kids on the track here, and one kid they mentioned was a BMX racer, and that was pretty clear because he took the whole shot and won the whole thing.
Smoked him.
Which, for those who don't know much about BMX racing, so BMX racing doesn't go in loops like this. It's just basically a single course that kind of, usually zigzags back and forth with a handful of turns, but it's not a full lap. This must have sucked because there's no jumps, and I know the course was uphill for part of it, so like the kids are going real slow, half of them are crashing, you're pedaling up the hill, and it's just not fun. Like, even if you don't ride BMX at all or never did, like it still sucks riding bikes uphill and trying to race at that. So as a BMXer, this was probably my least favorite event.
Yeah.
Let's see here. I'm sorry, my notes are frozen. The one kid won, and the Ducks were in the lead before the final race here. The fifth race was multidiscipline.
Yeah, you could say that.
So it started off on these weird Honda scooters, which were actually, this was kind of what, stirred up my memory, because I saw somebody on Instagram found one and restored it, and I was like, oh, I recognize that thing from that show. So they start off on these weird scooters, and then they stop and have to run across a couple mats for some reason, and then they get back on the Argos, and that's it. And
with a 2-man Argo race this time.
Yeah, the kid on the scooter has to get in the Argo with the other kid, and
after climbing over the fucking gymnastics pads for some reason.
Yeah, and the kid who's leading, like the leading team, almost skips the pads entirely and has to run back and jump back on it, but they still end up winning anyways. And after the race, they do the interview with the kids, and I guess the co-pilot was telling the driver to slow down because like they had a huge lead anyways, and they didn't want the kid to run over a hay bale, and the driver was just like, hell no, I ain't slowing down. Well, he didn't say hell, but he essentially he essentially exclaimed that. The Cobras won, and the announcer made the clutch Cobras. Clutch Cobra win, which that was Sergeant Slaughter's finishing move, the Cobra Clutch. So I'm a little surprised he didn't mention that, but I guess that's why he didn't last very long in wrestling. And that was pretty much it. And that was the whole show. Again, I can understand why this show didn't last very long, because unlike a lot of the other game shows, I mean, there's only so much you can do on a backlot. I know in some of the other episodes, like they get on they do something in the water there, like I don't know if it's jet skis or something like that. But yeah, I can totally understand why the show didn't last very long, and I couldn't find any info of any kids getting like seriously hurt or anything like that. But I just feel like as a premise, the show didn't really have a whole lot going for it.
Yeah, and up against the other shows just like it on television at the time, like the really like action game show kind of stuff, it did kind of fall flat. Like once you got past the gimmick of, oh fuck, I want to do that, that was it. Like
exactly.
But I still got that reaction out of it. I do want to race an Argo. I bet that'd be fun as hell.
For sure. So yeah, any last notes from you guys before we wrap this up? Anything from you?
Not really. Just made me wonder, where are these kids now? So if anyone out there knows any kids who have ever been on this show or any other kids' game shows, I want to hear those stories.
Yeah, we're putting together a class action against Joe Fowler based on some assumptions. One thing this show did remind me of, and I don't know if you guys remember this at all, was another game show for adults that was kind of the same premise. Here's a bunch of adults running around doing physical shit, kind of like American Gladiators, but this one was cowboy themed. Do you guys remember this?
No, not at all.
It was on like Sunday mornings, I think, on the Family Channel. I would watch it before I go to church once in a while. And it'd be like, it was American Gladiators with cowboy hats on pretty much. And they'd be in like this little western town, and you'd have to shoot people with paintball guns and get drugged behind a horse and all that.
Okay, it's starting to sound a little vaguely familiar.
Yeah, and I don't know how else to describe it or what it was called, but it was fucking awesome, and I would love to track that down. So if anything, this video decalcified that part of my brain, and now I'm going to go on a deep dive on Google and see what I can find. And I'll let you know what I figure out. Oh, by the way, Buddy Kofoid won that high limit race, so we're not going to talk about that next week.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Speaking of children,
my feed has not been working, so that's good to know. All right, so video of the week this coming week. We've got two. First off, so the first one is a 30-second video. I know we watched the video a few weeks ago, which was the different NASCAR commercials throughout the 2000s. And this one popped up on my feed a couple times in recent weeks, and it wasn't part of this list. Have you guys ever seen the Ken Schrader Little Debbie commercial?
I don't think I have.
Okay, perfect. Well, then it's just this commercial. There's a lot going on in it. There's a lot I want to talk about because it doesn't make any fucking sense, but it's hilarious. So perfect. That's the first video. And the second video, we haven't done one of these in a while. We are going to look back at the history of monster truck racing. This is the 1989 USHRA Houston event, and this is actually the cutoff, like the second half of the program, which with mainly the monster trucks and some tanks and a couple other like one or two truck pulls. But I picked this particular one because it's very much a changing of the guard. The couple trucks in it, Bigfoot 8 and Taurus, they were at the height of monster truck technology at this point, and it's the predecessor for the entire monster truck racing world changing in the next couple years. So that's going to be the episode we're going to watch next week. So 2 videos, they're already on the playlist now. So
nice. Yeah.
And from there, so NASCAR is in Mexico this weekend, which we already mentioned multiple times. I don't know what time the Xfinity race is Saturday, but Sunday is the Cup race at 3 o'clock, and definitely excited to check this out. I was not really watching NASCAR too much the other times they raced here in the 2000s, so this will all be new to me. So, yeah, it seems like an interesting track, and I'm excited to hear about all the complications that these teams have to go through going to Mexico. So that'll probably be half the story.
Yeah. I'm excited to see all the fanfare and the excitement around Daniel Suarez, that fan reaction. So
that's about the only thing I would care to watch in this. I don't give a fuck about this race at all, if I'm being honest. And it's not because they're going to Mexico. I don't care about that. It's just another road course. And it's a grade 1 FIA circuit, so you kind of know what you're getting into. Mexico's got some of the characteristics of the older shit. It's not quite like a COTA or something like that, but I don't know.
COTA was good this year.
Yeah, because they cut it down. And I guess this is a shorter course, if I remember correctly. So
Yeah,
maybe
it's supposed to be pretty short.
Maybe that's going to be a little better, but I'm definitely going to watch it, no question about it. But yeah, it's just definitely not at the top of my list for this year.
We'll see.
Cool. Well, yeah, I'm not doing any racing stuff this weekend. I'm assuming you guys aren't either, so.
Yeah, just Lee Star Speedway if the weather holds off.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Cool. Well, with that, as always, you can follow us on Instagram at meetmeatapplebees, on Twitter at meetmeatapplebees. I am Speedway Screens on all the things, speedwaytsj.etsy.com. I did start my 50% off sale, and probably by the time you hear this, I'll have some more stuff added to that. But for other stuff, as always, MMA Applebees for 15% off at checkout.
So I haven't even been on Instagram all week, so.
La Quinta Parkersburg True Love on Instagram.
Yep.
It's Snake Mountain True Love, folks. Yeah.
I'm struggling to not take a nap like Brien did on Sunday at the race.
Well, we're almost through it.
Yeah.
RobMoats_unofficial on Instagram. My band's called These Wild Plains. Like I said, if you want to hang out with us, we'll be at Star Speedway this weekend on Saturday night, watching some bang bangers and shit boxes and all sorts of tape together stuff, and the 350 Supers. That'll be a fun show. I've never been to Star before, even though it's pretty close to me. I've gotten to Lee a bunch of times, which is maybe 10 minutes up the road, but never Star. So really much looking forward to that. And again, hopefully the weather holds off. And if you happen to be there, come say what's up to me and the boys, and we'll have us a beer in the beer garden.
Yes.
Cool. Well, with that, looks like the check is here. So thanks for joining us again at Applebee's, and we'll talk to y'all next week.